Good. All right. If you were a bunch of porcupines, you'd be a prickle. A prickle.
Seriously, that's really true.
That's really true. It should be a prickle. Even if they aren't porcupines, sometimes you're a prickle. That's towards the flag. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a four-way test of the things. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will build goodwill and better friendships. Will be beneficial to all concerned. All right, thank you all for coming out on this beautiful morning. It's nice and cold, and this is only the beginning of it. It's actually going to go downhill from here. All right, today is January 20th, 2026. 345th day, no, excuse me, there are 345 days left this year. And the Winter Olympics starts on the 6th of February in Italy, for those of you who are needing some place to go where it's cold and snowy. You probably don't need to know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The tongue of a blue whale weighs as much as an elephant. Now you.
Thank you.
Now you know.
My grandson would be really impressed.
Yeah. We haven't any birthdays this week, but we do have an anniversary. Aaron Meyer. Where is he? Not here. Have his second year anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Oh, that's it.
Put all the out there. Okay, who do we guess?
Tim isn't a guest anymore.
No.
He got voted in.
Oh, you get, okay, we start charging him for his hat.
Oh, it's very good last free one.
And he's got to have a name tag or possible on it.
Well, he doesn't have a name tag
Yeah,
yet.
we won't charge him. We don't, and Ann Oberle is ours. Where is she? Okay.
You'll have to solve one poem, maybe?
Before the poem, I'll tell you my most uncomfortable thing this weekend. I preached at Lutheran Memorial, and so there's a presider, there's an assistant, there's a preacher, there's acolytes, there's everybody up there, the whole congregation. And we're about halfway, I finished my sermon. I had a good one today too. That's right. Anyway, sermon, and we're starting on preparing the communion ware, and it suddenly dawned on me, I have my phone in my pocket and it is not off. So I'm sweating the whole time. Please, nobody call. I'm sure that my wife would call. Anyway, okay, a poem. About a cold, not the cold, but a cold. It starts with a tickle, a need to clear the throat, but in a handful of hours, you sound like an old goat. A sniffle emerges as mucus streams down from a nose once clear, now a foghorn around town. Where once your thoughts ran smooth and quick, words and ideas are stuck like molasses thick. Your head is a balloon on a neck that aches. Your taste buds gone. Your eyes pooling lakes. There's an elephant on your face, or that's how it feels.
Or a whale.
Not a whale
tongue.
It's all equal around.
This is a trickle. Okay, your nose blocks solid, so your mind just reels. With your mouth ajar and your nose rubbed raw, you look like someone fresh from a brawl. But don't despair, don't lose hope of this nasal-filled state where you feel a big dope. Time will pass, and this void-filled den, and one day soon, you'll wake with less phlegm. Until then, we celebrate the hot tea and chicken soup, the time away from our social group.
Did you write that?
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Is that author unknown?
I'm just leaving.
You were just hoping the phone would ring and.
Oh, hey, we were paying attention though.
Yeah.
That's something, you know? All right, Rich, you're up for your number one, if you could please, thank you.
He's got no prepared.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm fairly new, so I thought it'd be a good time for you to get to know a little bit more about me. I was born in 1949, do the math, in Mexico,
Oh.
Missouri.
Oh.
I still have a framed hospital bill of my stay in the hospital. I think it was 3 days, All-Drain Medical Center in Mexico, Missouri, 1949. What did 3 days in a hospital cost in 1949?
$150.
No.
$60.
Yeah.
60 bucks. Okay? So I grew up in a little town in Missouri called Wellsville, Missouri, 1,500 people. My parents were blue collar workers, 8th grade graduation. Dad did all kinds of different things. My mother ran the school, the local school, the lunch program. Her claim to fame is one year she got second place in the Pillsbury Bake Off and got to close his California Art Linkletter.
Oh my
And
goodness.
the guest actor was Ronald Reagan.
Oh, yeah.
Ronald Reagan. Okay. So they had 8th grade graduation. I had 4 sisters. I was the first one to go to college, first generation. Who else is first generation college out there? A few of you. First generation college, University of Missouri, didn't know what I was going to study. I stumbled out and I majored in clinical lab sciences. So I was a medical technologist, worked in the laboratory. My first job was a blood banker, worked in the blood bank. I always like to say all my work was not in vain.
We'll put that one in the phone.
Write a poem.
Well, I'm on medical quizzes, and I'll give you one more quiz and I'll stop. Why do anteaters never get sick?
Antitoxin.
They're full of antibodies.
That's
Did Rich have this? What did Rich say?
So University of Missouri, clinical lab sciences, blood bank. Then I worked in a little county hospital for a while. Then I got a master's degree in education. I became an academic advisor for the University of Missouri. And then of the program where I graduated, clinical lab sciences, I became the director of that program. Then I became the director of the school that we were in. And our school had PT and OT and speech and imaging, respiratory and health psychology. Our school pulled out of the School of Medicine, became a freestanding school. So I was the founding dean of the School of Health Professions at the University of Missouri. So that's where I finished up my career, stayed a few more years in Missouri. Our daughters wound up in Wisconsin, both of them. The youngest daughter came first, went to law school at UW. She's now a partner at Pines Bach. She's a partner with Josh. And she's been in the news. She's an expert in open records, so she's been in the news a lot. Had some run-ins with Mr. Gableman, you know that name. So she's been in the news, and but very proud of her. Her husband's a professor of sociology at Beloit College. The oldest daughter followed her husband, who came here, and he started as inside sales at Trek Bicycle. And then he just stepped down last week as vice president at Trek. So he works with Tony at Trek. So there's a couple of connections. 3 grandkids. The oldest is a junior at Minnesota, sophomore at son and grandson at St. Olaf, and high school senior at La Follette, who's going to next year, going to the University of Missouri. So full circle. So I married a classmate in high school. There were 52 in our high school class. Carol, still been married all these years. She was a nurse, pediatric nurse, infection control nurse, worked in the mission field, worked for Heifer International. Do you know Heifer? Give animals, so work for Heifer. She still does a lot of work with our church. So we moved here about 8 years ago to be with the kids and the grandkids. Even though I'm retired, I'm still very involved. Well, like Chad and I are working with Sunshine Place, trying to help them raise some money for the new facility. And I volunteered there yesterday. And I'm also on the board of the Good Hope Education Initiative. The University of Missouri is one of the first universities that was in South Africa during apartheid. We affiliated with an open university. And I've been to South Africa many times with students and faculty. And the Good Hope Education Initiative works with 2 schools in South Africa. My newest adventure is I'm on the board of a brand new nonprofit called Global Partners for Rehab. We're trying to help the 2.41 billion people in the world that aren't getting PT, OT, speech, all those kinds of services. So that's a big project that we're getting off the ground. So that's kind of what I'm doing. When I first came to Wisconsin, I said I got to know some people, so I joined Don't Groan, the downtown Rotary in Madison. Okay? And every time I went there, you said it a different. I never got. It's hard to get connected in a group that big, and so I came and joined you folks. I feel very welcome. It was a great move. So that's my story. So
Yeah, great. Good stuff. All right, so a couple of things that I have. Let's see here. First, TriCon is coming up April 17th and 18th. If anyone's interested in attending, it's going to be at the Kalahari in the Dells. And there is an early bird registration that is going on right now until I believe it's February 2nd. But registration is early bird right now, but it's happening in April. So that's something folks might be interested in. We will be having our election for the new board and officers for this Rotary in about 2 weeks. That's on February the 3rd. And Joe, who I saw, has agreed that he would be a candidate for president for the 27-28 year. However, I want to make sure that everybody knows that that is not a done deal. No offense to Joe, but if anybody else is interested, perhaps has not heard or is interested in that position or any other sort of representational position, just let me know. But thank you, Joe, for stepping up to that. So keep that in mind.
Please let her know.
And this coming up on the 3rd.
No, I don't. I think we all just went, yeah.
No, they all went. Good luck,
Thank
Joe.
you, thank you.
Done deal.
So there's that. And then, as mentioned, we do have Tim, who's a new member, joining us. So Tim, if you want to come up here for just a moment, I have for you your name tag, and I don't have a pin, but I'll get one for you eventually. But come on up.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that fellow Rotarians, we are welcoming Tim into our Rotary Club of Sun Prairie. We ask you to join us because you are a worthy representative of your vocation and you believe in Rotary's ideals. In a moment, you'll receive a pin. See, not true, but you'll get a pin eventually. Eventually. And then you'll wear it with pride when you receive said pin. It is through recognition such as this that Rotary has become an honored organization worldwide. Let's see here. Rotary is a service club in its finest sense. We work hard as we serve others, but we find time for fellowship. We use our first name when addressing fellow members, and we encourage a social atmosphere, if you haven't figured that out already. Rotary is non-racial, non-political, non-sectarian, with clubs throughout the world. For this reason, political and religious issues are not discussed in Rotary clubs. Fellow Rotarians, here's Rotarian Tim, the newest member of the Rotary Club of Sun Prairie. Do not fail in your duty to win. Welcome. Yay. Don't let Dave touch you that name tag. Congratulations and welcome. And while we are honoring and addressing and welcoming Terry I have for you a Paul Harris pen, which right here, I think you should come on up here and I will give that to you. So, with great pleasure, Paul Harris pen. Thank you very much.
Well, thank
That's
you.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
What fun it is today. All right, we have that, and we will go to Rotary Moments. We have the Rotary Moments. That,
Kind of a Rotary moment. All right, so, as you know, we do fantasy football and then hoops for folks, and the other thing that we do, and I didn't do last year, so if you've only been here 1 year and you go, I've never heard of this before, it's because I forgot to do it last year. So we also do like a little Super Bowl, you buy a square is $5. You get the AFC on the inside, the NFC up here. After all the squares are filled, we'll fill in the numbers. Everybody get 2 for NFC and 2 for AFC. Whoever square wins the half wins $10, and whoever square wins the final score wins the whole thing. So we've always had really good participation. People like to gamble, doesn't cost a lot of money, it's $5. So I can pass this around, and then I need to collect your money. So let's pass it around. And if we fill this one up, we can do another one. So, it just depends on how much you like to gamble. Where you put your number right now, it doesn't make a bit of difference. Nothing matters until halftime or the final of the score. So I'll pass that around if people want to play. And again, I got a second one. So write legibly because I have to collect your money and I have to know who's names.
all right, very fun. Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, as you know, we do that every Rotarian every year, which is a criteria for us to be able to have district grants and stuff. And I ran the report again on Friday, and I'm very pleased to announce that we're at $95.35. So we have until the end of June to get the other $4.50 in there, but looks like we're doing pretty well. Nice job.
Thanks, Rich. Dan.
Okay, Patrick Marsh. So much has happened since we actually met last week. Let me get through it all. We had Plan Commission, which we got unanimous approval last Tuesday. Next day, we had Parks Commission, which we had unanimous approval there also. So we're moving forward. Tonight, we have council at 7 o'clock, and it's looking pretty positive because from the board, I think we had the majority of people already vote for us. So, I mean, it's looking good. And so lots of good comments. A lot of things came up. We just were grinding through, but we're getting there. Now, so then Friday, we had our committee meeting and lots to talk about there about keeping contractors online. Our deadline is May 4, or I think it's 10th. Is our deadline to have it completed. But with that, and we look at our weather outside and we going real fast, but that's okay. Get it out of the system now. That's the way we look at it. But also, I know that we talked about budget a little bit, that I think we have currently pledged, was it, you want to, 75,000 pledge. Right now we're thinking 110 is our estimated project cost. So we still got another 30 grand to raise on that front. So that'll be something that we'll have to be pushing on. For me personally, I mean, this week is a busy week for me because also it's my state surveyors convention and I'm up there giving them updates because they donated quite a bit of money already towards this project. So I'm giving them updates to the foundation, to the board, and to the general membership. So those are all things. I've got 4 days of talking Patrick Marsh this week. Just a little bit, but my main concern is I'm on the phone with all of our contractors saying, okay, when does this need to get done to keep you in, on the project? So it's a lot of coordinating right now, but it's all looking positive. I don't have any snafus. John's going in, sending money in for permit today. And, so that's a real brief. Patrick Marsh.
Thank you. Other Rotary moments at all? Anybody at all? All right. Then, I have the great pleasure of introducing Ann Oberle, who's going to talk to us about the foundation, the state of the foundation.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yep, it's right there. Yeah. There you go. Thank you. So, good morning. For those of you, it's been a while that you've seen me. My schedule doesn't quite work out for meetings recently, but I'm Ann Oberle, and I am, I've been a member of the Sun Prairie Rotary since about 2006, I think is when I started. And I'm currently the Sun Prairie Rotary Foundation board president. So the Sun Prairie Rotary Foundation, the Sun Prairie Club and its foundation is set up a lot like Rotary International, where you have Rotary International and then you have the Rotary Foundation. So the Sun Prairie Rotary Foundation is a charitable organization, our nonprofit, where we make our donations through to the causes that we represent. How the foundation works is when you become club president and you move through your club president, like, as you kind of know that we have like president-elects and then it moves into president. Then after you're done as a club president, you move on to the foundation. So it consists of the last 4 presidents. So right now I'm the club, I'm the president of the foundation. Next year it'll be John Holyboat, who was club president from 2022 to 2023. And then also on the board is Jamie, Laura. Then we have Debbie, who does a great job and has
Lifetime
foundation. And then also serving and advising the foundation, we have Terry Weisensell, who does our taxes and gives us guidance. And we also have an investment advisor with Edward Jones, Dan O'Brien, who also gives us and advises us on our investments that we have. That is the part of the corpus which funds the foundation, or a part of the foundation. So right now, this is the 2025-26 budget. What you see here is the revenue that we've had. So the revenue, it works on the Rotary year. So that would be from, so what we have here for revenue is from last year. So this would be the money we got and took in 2024-25. So what you see up here is in the August 2024, because the Rotary year is July 1st through June 30th. So we have the golf outing that was in August at 11,000. We have the Kentucky Derby from 2025 in May. So this is where we're getting all our money that goes into the foundation. We have concerts in the park from 2024, which is 700. We have the pickleball tournament from 25, which we have 200. UW concessions, which we started doing, and that's about close to 5,000. Now that would be anything that we did up to July 1st of 2025. So this doesn't include the Coldplay concert and the Ohio State game that we did. That would go into next year's budget. Then we have the 2 lines for fantasy football. They're kind of in blue because these are kind of just
pass through. The money comes in and they go directly out to the person that, because the winner donates them or gets the fall tariff. So those kind of flow through, but they're money in and money out. Then we have miscellaneous income, which is when people use our grill, things like that, sometimes our beach shed. Then we also have some carryover unused funds from last year, which is mostly some scholarships that weren't received yet, so we have them in the budget, but we don't give those out until someone enrolls in it. So there's some non-used scholarship funds, unrealized gains, which comes from, we get gains on our corpus. And then there's been a decision a while back before even I was on the board that we are able to use half of our unrealized gains for the year into our budget for our costs for what the foundation gives for the next year. And then the Sue Hollenbach scholarship comes from a donation that was made by the family after Sue Hollenbach died. That's for that scholarship that we give. So that's pretty much the money that we had that came in 2024-25. And so the total there was $29,354.97. So now for the 2025-26 year, these are the expenses that we have. So we have the academic awards night, which is we sponsor and give money. The students at the high school get letters or pins, and sometimes even a plaque for high performance in it. So if they're in the top 10%, they'll get awards, and we've been sponsoring that for a long time. So we give $1,500 for that. Then we have scholarships. We have 4 scholarships that we award every year in the spring. That's the Sue Hollenbach, the Bob Devenish, Clarence Grundle, and then a general scholarship. Some of them are like the Sue Hollenbach and the Clarence Grundle, they each have kind of themes for them. So for like example, Sue's, she was in food science, so the students going into food science, that's we award those scholarships to. Then we have a line item for exchange students, and if we aren't doing an exchange student in this Rotary year, there's no expense for that this year. Then we have RILA, which is Rotary Youth Leadership Academy. We send 2 students from each high school, so that's $1,000 there. Then we have a community project that we've been doing for the past 2 years that we do, which is $1,500. That amount we usually split $750, half and half with the club, and we'll discuss that with the club about, whether that's possible this year. But the line item for us is $1,500. Then we have the Sun Prairie Library Project, which we made a 5-year commitment of $25,000 for the library improvement. This is our last year of that, and the first year we paid us $10,000, and so this is our final year for that $5,000 commitment. So next year that will fall off of this budget. And then we have made a commitment of $5,000 to shelter for the storm. I think they had floor replacements, they had a flood. And then this is the last year of that too, because we had a $5,000, so this is the second half of that. We have an international project that's already paid for, the money's come in and gone out for the 2,000 for this. We're in a water project with the Wanna Creek Club. So that's the 2,000 there. Then the board this year approved making a $25,000 5-year commitment of $5,000 each year for the Sunshine Place for their capital improvement project. And this will give us also, John and I went and met with Ann Oberle at the Sunshine Place. It was really, in seeing the need, the night we walked in to talk to her, it was a night for the food pantry. There was a line, the place was completely full. They do great things for this community. They have approached us to make a commitment. We looked at the things that they were offering. This $25,000 gives us naming rights on a conference room. They had an option where it was like, we could have done a little bit lower, but it was still the $5,000 each year. So we really kind of felt like we should go for the full 25 for the 5 year instead of doing like a 3-year 15 for the same amount, since we could work it into the budget. And also, as you saw in the revenue, we are bringing in the unrealized gains, but it is kind of nice. I didn't mention that with the revenue this year, but we're using the unrealized gains in this budget, but this is the first year in a while where we haven't had to dip into the corpus to fund what we want to do. So that's actually a good thing. So we felt like, we know that Sunshine Place came here and talked to the club. So the board approved doing a $25,000 commitment over 5 years to the Sunshine Place. Then we have, club designating funds, which cover the multicultural fair. This year we did do a sponsorship, so we intend to continue doing a sponsorship because we do a booth at the multicultural fair too. And then also for a movie night. So those are things that we do with the community there. Then we have a line item for Trick Star, which if Dan doesn't, we have it there. So that Trick Star is a competition at the high school. It's a statewide competition and ends up and can be national. And Dan and Bill Wambach would go to the high school, and it's a test in trigonometry, and students win. The students that place win money. Actually, my son placed 1 year. So it's a kind of a fun thing. It's a cool thing to get kids doing math and trigonometry. Then we have the Sunshine Supper. We did put in a bit more this year. We have $4,500 for the Sunshine Supper. We put in a little bit. We approved a little bit more since the cost for the meals is going up. So that one went up a little bit from last year. Then again, we have the Hoops for Hope and the fantasy football, which, like we said before, kind of just comes in and goes out. And then operating expenses, that's for things like our organizational charter and our renewal of our annual board taxes, just kind of just the things, the fees that we have to pay for the year. And then we have a little bit of undesignated funds left over, $750, which makes up our budget. So the next thing is, this is kind of a breakdown of what our investments are and what we have. So we have savings amount, then we have 3 CDs, then we have the Edward Jones portfolio, which is the 135,000. So our total investments that we have right now is 190. Then you can see on this last part, this is where we get the unrealized gains. So from 2024 to 2025 is where we get the 12,700. So the 6,000 came from there for the unrealized gains that we used in the budget for the year. And this is and that's pretty much, the foundation does. It's a nonprofit. It does so we do our donations and charitable giving through that. The board itself is, you've gone through the club presidency, so you really have a good idea kind of what's going on in the club. And that's kind of, so I'm at my end of my club presidency commitment. So just to give you a warning.
Time you start over.
Yeah. And then the board tries to meet like once a quarter. It's not, it's just in case. Sometimes we do have people approach us during the year with different things that come up, and requests for funds and different things. But when we work our fundraisers, the money goes to the foundation, and then we also have a corpus that we make money on through too. The hope is that, if there's a good year, maybe we would have money to do a community grant, but that just hasn't happened in a long time. But the more we raise funds, the better off we are with that. Are there any questions?
So Patrick Marsh's question is, so we have donations that have come to the foundation. Where does that show up in our numbers?
We kind of kept that as separate. Debbie, do you want to skip to that?
Sure. No, that project is not included in the corpus.
Okay.
That is kept separate, and it has its own fund balance.
Gotcha.
And if you want, you can, if anybody's interested, Debbie's always available to answer questions, and she's great about, she's been great. So.
If you wanted to make a donation to Patrick Marsh, we go through the foundation because that's the.
It still comes to the foundation, exactly. Right. So yes, if you'd like to make a contribution, that would be awesome. And then it comes to the foundation, which makes it tax deductible for you. I then write you a letter, a tax letter, so you have that for your taxes, since it is kind of like the one you got for your polio. So then you have that for your taxes, and because all the money's within the foundation, it's all tax deductible. We just have a separate pot, so to speak, for the Patrick Marsh.
Yeah, that we didn't include in the moving budget, because that's gonna fall in the year
Because
whatever we
it's a,
do it.
it's a designated fund, that's why it's not in there, because this is, kind of the money we have to spend, however, is decided, where that, when you give it to Patrick Marsh, it's gonna go to Patrick Marsh, it's not part of the general fund. Does that make sense?
I know for Deb and I had the conversation this week, because we are under a moving target and we have our budgeted amount. My question was to Deb is like, okay, I've got 70,000 committed. We're missing 30, but I gotta finish this project. Will the foundation back us? And that's where we were, we had that conversation.
And I think if it would come to that point, then the foundation, the board would definitely meet and see what we can do, what we'd have to do, if we'd have to cover it with corpus money for the time being.
Yeah, it would be a short term.
It would be a short term.
And we're fortunate enough, we have some in-kind donations and things that are in our budget, but, we don't know how that all play out until, and bottom line, I'm under a deadline and it's gotta happen.
It's kind of crazy that kind of the Patrick Marsh idea kind of came up in my presidency year, and it took until I'm foundation president to actually so now I'm dealing with the budget of kind of making that decision of let's go forward on this. So.
Yeah, but I know very well.
So yeah, you guys have done a great job.
I didn't realize it was your presidency, but that.
Yeah, well. So, but if anybody has any more questions, go ahead.
Just for information, how many clubs have a foundation?
That's a good question. I'm not completely sure how many in our district have foundations. I know there's quite a few. Actually, what's interesting is I just received this week an email, and I have to follow up on it because I wasn't sure. It kind of came in kind of weird, but I think Madison South is reaching out to us to see how we structure our and how our foundation works. So I know that they have a foundation. I'm pretty sure the West One Middleton has a foundation.
Yeah,
Several do.
there's 50 some clubs in our district, and I'd say probably half of them at least
Yeah.
have their own foundation.
Very.
Our foundation actually started in 1994. Clarence Grundle made a $10,000 donation. Just to give you some perspective, Clarence Grundle got William Wambach in the group, and then he got Dan and Deb, that started from there. And then in the late 90s, Al Rosenthal was president and kind of made it legitimate. So we started filing tax returns there. So they haven't caught us for 30 years, I think we're good. But we filed it for the last 25.
Yeah, so the foundation gets any raffle permits and things like that go through us, and Terry has been great about doing, now we do our taxes, and so it's a straight 501c3.
But, yeah, so just if somebody from either who's in the club or somebody who just in the community said, hey, here's, who are service organizations in Sun Prairie, and here's this really great thing that I would like to have money donated to. Is there a method or a process where someone can make that request? And then once that request is made, is it solely the responsibility of that foundation board to make the decision, or how does that process work?
The decision for spending the foundation budget is through the foundation board.
Okay.
But a lot of times the way the process works, when it's not a year, there was a year where we had some money and then we did put it out and announced that there were grants, and we had grant applications, people presented, the club voted on those. So that can happen if there's money out there. That hasn't happened in a long time. So usually what happens is someone either reaches out to the foundation itself or oftentimes to the club president, and then the club president kind of talks to the foundation about what's available, and then decisions are made from there.
Isn't there a form on?
There is a form, there is an application form on the website that people can fill out and send in. But that hasn't been, I don't, I hope it's up to date. Sometimes that stuff, that information there gets behind.
Yeah, a newbie question.
Sure.
I understand that there are dues, to be members. How much of the dues come to the local, Rotary Club versus the national?
You know, and that's really interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's, so that's, your dues go to the club, and the club has its own budget. So
Oh,
none of your dues.
so
go
that
to
wasn't
to
reflected
the
in.
foundation. What would be similar to this is, so, but there is a portion of your dues that pay for your internet, for your Rotary, that go for your Rotary dues, and then there's the club dues too, but that's a separate budget. This is more like when you heard Terry got his Paul Harris, that's because he made donations to the Rotary International Foundation. So
Okay.
when, and so you'll hear about like every Rotarian every year, that's not paying into Rotary International, that's going to the Rotary Foundation. So, and that's an interesting distinction, because you also are giving to a foundation that's a Rotary Foundation at the international level that kind of does the same thing. That's their funding for projects like international stuff that they do. So you have the International Foundation, you have your Rotary International dues, you also have your club dues, and then there's a completely separate thing that is our foundation that would be, but it doesn't have any, it doesn't, none of your dues go to the foundation, only the fundraising that we do to our foundation. But it is, but I don't have the breakdown on what the breakdown is with your dues. Jim, do you know what the breakdown is? Because, so we have a club treasurer and your dues go to the club, that club budget. Oh, so I think we got it.
Michael's got it.
There we go.
I'll answer your question overall, Tim. It's $80 a quarter with the start, and that covers the Rotary International and also the district.
Yeah, right.
That we get, as well as some other things like Rotary magazines, breakfast, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so like the breakfast and like Jim said, the Rotary International dues, the Rotary magazine, that all goes into the club budget. That covers, so there's certain little things that the club does, and your dues all go to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that does get, yeah.
I have my different churches confused, but I seem to have a memory that we used to have an annual meeting of the foundation to approve the budget. Because the foundation was us, not the board.
I don't remember that. I mean, usually there is this presentation of the
It seems to me
budget.
we used to approve it. I mean, it was like done deal, but, and so, I mean, it will be in bylaws and
Yeah,
a long time since I was doing what you're doing.
right.
But, I just think that for whatever purpose we can have these boards.
Yeah, and I've asked that question too.
It can be something in the bylaws. If it's not there, don't worry about it. Or something that says we have to have the.
And I, you know, I don't recall at the last few of these,
I don't
but
either.
usually
I don't
it's
know why. It just
presented.
came to my mind.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not 100% sure on that, but I can check through the bylaws and see. But because this is kind of the meeting to say, here's what we've come up with.
For the next fiscal.
For the next fiscal year. So this would be, this is the money that we're spending and taking in. The money that we took in last year, the money that we're spending this year. So this is up until June 30th of this.
I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, two. One, how, as a club, how much money do we need to raise for the 26, 27 year to meet what you think what the board needs to do? It seems like it's backwards, that you just figure out what kind of money you have and that's what you spend, rather than getting us involved to say, how much money do we have to raise?
Well, actually, what we give really doesn't change much. per year. So we kind of use this year's budget as an estimate for what we need for next year, how much we raise, because we kind of know what we have right here, and it's pretty much the same, because I don't see us bringing on another project unless we raise more funds. I mean, pretty much, we know we're kind of committed, especially when we have these commitments, like when we make a $25,000 5-year commitment, we kind of know we're committed to that for the next year, so we know we're gonna have to raise that. Otherwise, we're gonna have to take it out of someplace else. So really, just because we don't foresee taking on any new projects, and if we do, we kind of know we have to cover them, which is why things like with Patrick March falling in this year, we don't quite know, and we can't quite predict that we're going to spend it this year's coming up. But yeah, so it's really, we use what, we don't really change much from year to year if you look at the foundation budget. So we kind of know we need, if we're going to stay afloat and kind of not have to take from the corpus, we have to at least make the money that we made this year. And I think that's kind of how we've looked at it, is we kind of know from this budget what we expect that we should be making this year. And if we don't make it, we know we have to make it up for someplace. Say we made less on the golf outing, we know we're gonna have to make it up someplace else. But that's kind of the way the budget for this has always been done. Did you have another question, Rich?
Yeah, well, the other part of it was looking at the budget summary for the expenses part. There was a few neat, I think, surprises there that, oh boy, we did that, really? How do
Like
we?
what?
Well, my whole point is how do we get the community to know that we're doing these things?
Which one's an example?
Go back on your slides.
Okay,
Well, we've been
yeah.
doing stuff with Ryla and different things like that, what is it? Are we, I guess my point is, are we using as a club and a foundation, what we do to our best to let other people know what we do, to let the community know what we're doing? When you look at this, it's pretty damn impressive.
I do know we make a big presence at the high school for those of anybody who's been at the academic awards night. I mean, someone from the club is there, you know, parents recognize that we are part of what these kids get as the awards that we get. You know, can we do a better job of promoting ourselves? Probably. But I do think that, like, at least for the academic awards night, you know, we announced that for the scholarship night, we have someone there. You know, we do try to get ourselves in the paper for the Sunshine Supper. You know, I think we try our best. Maybe we don't do the greatest job, for, you know, getting it out there, but that's just kind of tricky. And Debbie, do you have something?
Yeah, two things on that. One, like Ann just said, academic awards night is, you know, the hundreds of people that are there, the parents and the kids who know what we do. Same thing with scholarships. The community project, that FEMA award, were listed in their program, so anybody who goes to that, as well as I think one year we did a big check presentation there. The community, the library project, we did a big check there with Teresa Stevens and the people from the foundation, from the library, in order to promote that. We did a big check for the shelter from the storm. The international project, that was a Wanakee project we gave to, so probably not quite as much. Rex and I were just having a conversation about the Sunshine Place, and our first 5,000 will do a big check presentation there, and the pictures that go along with it. So yes, to answer your question, Rich, there's various ways that we put it out there, whether it's the people who attend those particular events, or we do a big check presentation and try and get it in the Star. And then my original comment was, what was his first question?
It was about how do we do the budget and
I'm
budget.
thinking from a club, like we were looking at the board meeting the other night and said, how much money do we need to raise? Which fundraisers do we want to do? And they all came back to, well, what do we want to do and how much money do we need? And that's what my question was, is how do we determine how much money do we need to raise?
Right, and talking to Terry here at the table, when the foundation was in its inception, they have always done it this way.
we focused on the fundraisers, not on how much money the foundation needed, but doing fundraisers to create the funds. So then we can do our foundation budget, and our giving is based on how well those fundraisers do. And Terry confirmed that I've not been in the club since the foundation started, but Terry was and said it's always been that way, that the club always focused on what can we do this year for fundraisers? How can we raise some money? Then you take whatever you raise and then you decide what you have to spend. So I don't know, Terry, if you want to add anything to that or not.
Yeah, so if we, yeah, go ahead.
Piggybacking off that, if we would have made 70,000 in income from all of our things, would we have found 70,000 to spend?
Well, what I would think is yes, because then if we made money and we had that money there, we probably wouldn't take from unrealized gains for one. Absolutely not, because that was a big decision that the board in deciding about the Sunshine Place to make an offer to was we were looking at our budget saying, we don't have a exchange student this year, so we got some money from that. Can we make this $5,000 commitment while we're finishing our other $5,000 for the library? And we said, well, we had a good year this year. We have some unrealized gains. We're going to take from that rather than just leaving them there. So if we had that 70,000, that's when we would do something like maybe go out to the community and say, we have money to give. We'd like some grant proposals, and we find what we wanted to donate.
So it's safe to say our base level then is 30,000, because that's what's getting these recurring things. And then if we go beyond 30, then we can start looking at options. So to answer his question, we need 30 a year.
That's what I would say. I would take this budget because this has been pretty consistent over the past few years. And I would say, that's where we're comfortable, especially since this year, like I said, is the first year that in the past few years where we haven't actually had to take out of the corpus. We didn't have enough for unrealized gains. So we didn't have to take any money out of our corpus.
Say, Ann, can you bring up the slide on the revenue side?
Sure.
And I just want to point out one thing, because it's come up in the board meetings a lot. There are some projects that we do that create really nice revenue for us on an annual, every year. There are some projects that are questionable as to whether or not we should be spending the energy and the time to do that. One of them up there right now I see is pickleball tournament, 292, which requires a lot of hours and doesn't provide very much revenue. But there's also an offset of doing fundraising in front of the community that kind of puts us out there. So there's a balancing act, I guess is what I'm saying. The problem I have is that it's difficult. Whose responsibility is it to determine what projects we do? That's what I struggle with.
And as far as you need projects, does you mean projects that we give money to? Or
No,
as
the
far as
projects that we work
you
on.
mean the
fundraising, right.
It really is the clubs, because as Debbie said, if we wanted to do 6 more fundraisers and bring in more money, we could decide to do that. And then the foundation just goes, we have this money, how do we spend it? So it really is, like, if you really feel like, say, the pickleball tournament isn't enough, then is it that we don't get enough? Then it's the club and the club board's decision to say, no, we're not gonna do that. And then the foundation goes, okay, we don't have this 292. What other things, where can we take it from in our budget to cover it? Do we have to cover it with unrealized? So it really is, as far as what we want to do for the community and fundraising, that's the club's decision. So like even the concerts in the park, that's the club decision about whether we want to do ice cream. And that is a good example of exactly what you said. The whole idea of that was we were coming out of COVID. We wanted to do something that got us together, that was fellowship oriented. It was never meant to be a big fundraiser, and we just make some money off of it. It's not a big one. So it is a decision of, is that worth our while anymore?
So just, some of this, just for me, if I don't like trying to understand this, the way I hear this is that all things equal, if we just kept doing what we were doing, give or take one, pickleball yay, pickleball nay, But if we just kept doing what we were doing at the rate that we are doing it, we would continue in the same fashion, giving to the same commitments, et cetera. If we felt like, or if we had folks in the club, or we had a call from the community, we could decide then to say, oh my gosh, here's this opportunity for us to, or here's a need in the community for $50,000 they really need for whatever organization. And as an organization, a service organization, we could bring it to the group and say, you know, we could continue in the same path we are. This is great, keep going. Or we have a really passionate plea for this project, and we would like to figure out a way to fundraise for that. And so that would be a decision communally of the group to decide if we want to do that or not. So it's kind of part for the horse is how I'm hearing here, horse for the cart. What do we want to do? We can keep doing exactly what we are, contributing as we are, doing these great things that we now are all privy to understanding where it's going, or we could also add to that and say, I'll Patrick Marsh, here's this really big thing that we want to do, but to do so, we would need to be more aggressive or be more strategic or both for fundraising. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, but you have to keep in mind too, like even with this budget, you know, it can depend on how we do for the year. If the market's not doing good, then we don't have as much money to use for unrealized gains.
Yeah, and for those of you who are newer to the club, previous to COVID, we had two really big fundraisers. And it was the golf outing, which declined during COVID, and now it's back up to about where it was previously. And the other one was the pancake breakfast. And, you know, we don't do that anymore. That was the club board and the club, right, deciding we're no longer going to do the pancake breakfast, but that also brought in anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. So before COVID, both of those fundraisers brought in together anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000, just those two fundraisers. Okay, so now you can see that since our club decided not to do the pancake breakfast anymore, people had to step up and say, what else can we do to help raise money so we have money to give back to the community?
And that's why we brought in the UW concessions to try and make up for not doing that pancake breakfast.
Derby got added,
Yeah.
and anything else on there was added after COVID, after it was decided by the club not to do the pancake breakfast anymore. So hopefully that provides a little bit of background and insight, but we easily had $20,000 to $25,000 for two fundraisers pre-COVID every year.
Pancake 10 hours.
Yeah,
A lot of
man
hours. A lot of man.
And we were seeing some declining, like, in the more recent years, we were seeing the money that we made from it go down. So, and you know, it was a hope that, like, if we promoted the Kentucky Derby party a little bit more aggressively, we could see a pickup in that, because that's really been mostly a lot of people. Yeah, Debbie, go ahead.
And as we're talking about, I got thinking about some of these items. One, we think we have a lot of opportunity to grow Kentucky Derby. We just need to get our signs out there and promote to other clubs and promote on the Rotary website and then within the community, right? It should be a community event. But the second one is the concerts in the park. Or I'm sorry, the pickleball tournament. And we've seen a decline in that the 2 years that we did it. But I think if we did something different, right? Sometimes you just need to change up what you do. So what we've done the last 2 years, you know, my thought was, especially if it came to me this last year when we were doing it, well, people bring their own sandwiches. Some people buy from us, you know, the drinks, whatever. It's where the $2.92 came from. However, what if we sold something that they couldn't like bring themselves? Because in a park, you can bring what you want. Bring your own beverages, you can bring your own food, you can do whatever. But what if, and it was a beautiful, 2 beautiful days this last year, so maybe it would be again, what if we decided to sell ice cream, like the Sassy Cow ice cream, in addition to what we did? That
definitely could possibly bring in more money. But I think it's people thinking differently too about the different fundraisers that we have. What could we do different? What could we change up to help improve them or help improve our revenue from those different events? So I think there's other ways to think about the things that we do and how, is there ways we could change it up to maybe make them more profitable?
I think concerts in the park, now that we've moved to a different spot.
Yeah, that made
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah, this year, yeah, it was really feeling like, should we keep doing this when we were inside the shelter? Once we moved outside and had more visibility and get closer to the splash pad, then we had much more business and it felt more worthwhile again.
It
So
was
I
a lot
think
more fun.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it was a lot more fun. So I think if we set that one's just like thinking about it differently. If we set it up, get a little bit better signage with ice cream and stuff like that, I think that one might still, that one, because it really isn't a ton of work for as far as man hours. It's only a couple hours, as long as we can get the orders into Sassy Town. And we have we have the supplies that we need, and it's a pretty simple supply. So that one, but like Debbie said, if we want to do something like ice cream at the pickleball, we have the stuff that we can do it. Or pick up, that's also too, we work with the city on what, the first few years we were going to every concert. Now we do a couple. So, we can look at that too, as far as what event we can work with, to be at. And then, we can, we have the decision to continue with the concessions or not. Tony's been working with that too, and we can, that's always a big commitment too, so. We can always decide, I don't know how much we pick up on that. But like I said, that's, pretty much what we raised this year is what the foundation's gonna get, and then we kind of look the foundation, next year we'll look at what did we make and say, how does that fit with what we have committed to, and is there anything else we can commit to? Do we have anything left?
Yeah. So Tony, we did commit to the ACDC concert in July, and then Tony and I had a conversation about 2 football games this fall. So she was going to reach out and see, what we could do there. Last year, I don't know, around this time, I don't remember what date it was, but we did a hockey game. And it was at night, but that hockey game was pretty profitable. It was more profitable than basketball. It was more profitable than, I don't know if we did it or somebody else did it, but because they have the periods, right? And at the end of each period, you get 10 or 15 minutes, and that's when you get the people to come out. Or, in hockey too, if you miss a couple minutes go by without anybody scoring. But not in basketball. So you don't get the people coming out of basketball during the game because they don't want to miss anything, which you can't blame them, especially when they're really good games that we win at the very end. So, there's that happens, but, I think hockey might be, if the club wanted to, I think that would be one you could get this year to get into next year's budget. If people are willing. So I'm just throwing that out there, but the hockey was pretty profitable. But Tony then would have to check and see if they have availability for us to do a hockey game. If people are interested in, 6, 7 people donating their time for, about 4 or 5 hours to do the hockey game.
And I will say too, the board, it's kind of, I think that is one of the, if you look at the foundation bylaws, it's supposed to meet quarterly. We'll announce it to the club. People from the club can come to the board meetings. The foundation meetings or something. Keeping that open. It's fine and open. And there's always an overlap kind of because Laura is still, with the way that the foundation and the club works, Laura is still on the club board. So we always have there is one member that overlaps with the two. So that once you're out of when you finish being president, you still stay on the club board. And then you're also on the foundation board. So there is that connection. Okay.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Some stuff for us to all think about, I think. All right. That will bring us to Happy Hour.
All right. A couple chances to dig around for money here and continue. Asked you last week what you call it. When you bought it. Both with the right masters. Yeah.
Whale tongue.
Oh, I know.
I think you better have to get that one.
Okay, $2 history moment. Yesterday was in LKJ. And December 1st of 2025, the 70th anniversary of Rosa Parks being arrested. So what do those two things have to do with each other? Martin Luther King's first ministerial job was at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery. And when the bus boycott started, the people on the committee, they decided they needed a spokesman for their effort. And MLK was the new pastor at the Baptist Church, and one of the women said, you know, we have a young pastor and he's a really good speaker. So he became the spokesman for the bus boycott in Montgomery, and that is how kind of his entry into the civil rights movement. So happy MLK Day.
This Foundation is based on bringing money in before they spend it, checking the percent of that their positions in their government.
You got it at the local level.
I'm just happy to be able to make a meeting and speak for everybody today. And I came from 75 every day in Phoenix, Arizona, back to harsh reality requirements. All right.
Great, and thanks for the presentation today. Welcome our newest member to the club. Hope you enjoy the club. And then the other one is I'm much happier to be here than where my husband is today. He had to be for jury duty today.
At downtown, yeah, about the 6th week, however many other people are in the
Well, I'm a 1973 graduate of Indiana University.
Yeah.
When I was there, we used to go to the games on Saturday at Memorial Stadium, and it was a joke. You know, and the at the time, the student section was very, very top of the stadium, not like it's done here in Madison, but a perfect season, the Heisman Trophy winner, and the quarterback touchdown himself. He literally flew into the end zone. So anything is now possible.
I'll give another $1 for Indiana. Big
All right.
Just a thankful dollar for the Paul Harris. That actually comes from the every Rotarian every year that we give to the international, which also qualifies us for grants. And that's glad to hear Rich say we're up to 99, I think, per person. So that's important when we're talking budget, because that's an $8,000 grant that we're getting towards Patrick Marsh. So I'm glad we're getting closer. Here. Sure. Yeah.
A few happy dollars. One, I had a chance to go to Wizard of Oz this weekend. Dan Presser is the Tin Man, did a great job. It's a huge group of people and students. Wonderful production over at West. And it was a great thing to do on a really cold day. The other thing is I'm also on the board of Sun Prairie Moves, which is a bicycle advocacy group here in Sun Prairie, trying to work with the city and promote all things as far as being outside and not always just jumping in a car. Well, my connection to that is I went to the bike swap, which is at the Alliance Energy Center this weekend as well. And they have the the Wisconsin Bike Association and stuff like that there, but it's a lot of individual booths of bike parts and wheels and bikes and stuff like that. I love that stuff. So I just walked around for hours with a big smile on my face, and I was very self-controlled. When I got home, I said to Julie, because sometimes she comes with me, but I said to Julie, hey, could you help me get something out of the car? And she's like, oh no, what did you buy? I'm like, just kidding, I only spent $10. So, there.
That's good self-control.
Yeah.
Over here, like, oh, yeah. All right.
All right, look at him jumping on the, there you go.
Well, I wanted to share that, speaking of sports and watching Indiana win the national championship, my son is on the Sun Prairie United hockey team, and Thursday night, it was a win against Verona. I don't think Sun Prairie United hockey has won the conference championship, I believe, since 2007. And it was a very exciting game that night. My son tied the score 3-3 in the second period. They went to overtime. They beat Verona in overtime. So it was you want those lifetime memories for your children in sports. We watched it in football, and it was fun to see the team win Thursday night. Now they got to win a few more, but they're having a great season. So keep an eye on the hockey.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. He's not here, of course. All right, okay. Did we get these guys yet? You? No? Yes? Oh. I can always depend on you for a buck.
Yes, this is all I have left from the weekend. We took the kids up to Blue Harbor, as their Christmas gift, and we had a great time, but as you can tell, my wallet was open a lot, but we had a good time. It was, silly me, I thought we were all gonna be indoors. We were not. We had a villa, and I thought, oh, well, that's gonna be connected to no, it's not. So we did a lot of running back and forth, and right on Lake Michigan. It was a little chilly, but it was fun. Great family fun. So great memories. But yeah, that's all I had left.
East side of Lake Michigan.
Oh yeah, no, that's for sure. I'll give a couple
All
dollars.
right, thank you. Well,
So I was just thinking, because the home started with a cold, and this is the first holiday season that our family was not sick. Because we get sick, we get it for a lot. I get it for the longest time. So this was the first holiday season we weren't sick for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We got to see family. So I did miss a couple meetings. And then the second one is the UW girls hockey team. 5 of the girls are going to be in the Winter Olympics for hockey with our U.S. team. So I think it's really nice.
wow.
Yeah, just a couple. Well, I was happy this morning, the truck started, and it was interesting watching the temperature. I was up at the lake of Lodi, and traveling down, I started at 16 below and it got to 0 here. So it's like, well, I'll take that. Must be going to a heat wave. Yeah. But that was fun. And then this weekend, I guess it was kind of my staying indoors weekend because the weather was so nasty, and I was working on taxes and pulling numbers together and stuff like that. But I gotta say, all of the football games, even last night, were just crazy cool. I mean, they were phenomenal. If you love football, what a great weekend.
Well, Mike, there you go.
We had our big Winter Classic last weekend, and it's one of the big swim meets we have. We've got a couple of one-dayers, but we have a 2-day meet, and it was 485 kids. They came from Wausau, they came from Green Bay, they came from West Bend and Berlin, all over the place. It's become one of the largest meets in Dayton County. It is a big ordeal. We're starting to get more out-of-towners so that we're getting some community grants. Reason why I'm bringing this up, 270 volunteer spots over the course of 2 days, which is a lot for our team. it's like a qualifying thing in the morning, and then the fastest kids come back at night. That one is the hardest thing for us to find volunteers. So if we're trying to find extra dollars, we can pay the Rotary $250 at a time for 2 hours. If you guys want to come and get front row for a swim meet, we can get some Rotary t-shirts for you guys and really get everyone seeing you be on the live stream and be involved. It's hot and your feet are gonna get wet, but it's fun to watch and it's really neat to see these kids figuring out the sports.
I got one more.
Oh,
One more.
hurry up.
Sunday night, I went to the UW women's basketball game, double overtime. Wisconsin won, so it's supposed to be a rebuilding year, but it's a little bit more than that. They got some mojo going, so keep your eye on the women's basketball team.
You bet. Rich, you have one?
I have $2 if you would. One is, we had some horrible weather down here also. Yesterday I got up, the wind chill was 27 degrees. I thought the whole place was gonna shut down. We're getting back up there today. It's still cold, but we're getting back up there. And the other one is kind of an athletic thing also that I want to say is that my wife and I have been playing shuffleboard, and so far we're undefeated. We're doing well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that really your background?
No,
Oh,
ours is actually prettier. We face the 5th green, and it's an island green.
oh, pretty.
Yeah.
I don't think they have mountains like that.
I don't know. So you can see the waves moving. That's why I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little envy.
Okay.
AI.
Yeah, if I got her, she's collecting them. Okay, you're on.
All right, I got a couple here. Thanks to Ann for the presentation. It was really interesting and I learned a lot, so I appreciate that. Second happy dollar is, thanks to Phil for filling in for me last week. We had a great time in New Orleans, ate a lot, heard some amazing music in such a crazy, wacky, wonderful city. Really loved it there. That was a lot of fun. And then the third happy dollar is, I have driven a Volkswagen Beetle since 1984. How? I've only had a Beetle. It's the only car I've ever had. And I've had 3. And I plonked down money on my very first new car. Never bought a new car either. They've always been used. I plonked down some money on a new car. And I weighed and opted and weighed and opted, and I decided to curl across. It's gonna be great. It takes 6 months to get here because apparently there aren't any. And what about the Beetle? No way I can give up that Beetle. That Beetle's just gonna hang out in the garage. It'll still be around. But yeah, I bought a new car. So that's my last happy dollar there. All right. Raffle drawing. Let's see. What are our newest member? Pull out the last 3 numbers there.
Yeah.
303.
All right.
All right. And you have a gift for the winner here from our speaker presenter, Deb. All right, we'll keep going with this. It's getting a little thin. We're getting there. All right. And I do have a Rotary fun fact for the day. The Rotary Did You Know for today is John Frick, who was a member of the Rotary Club of New York, made the first ever Rotary pin in 1909. There you go. All right,
Yeah.
Hi, what's your last name?
Yes.